movie is also one of your first credits as a producer. Why was it so important for you to be involved as a producer from this point on, being the star of the screen as well? Can you talk about that?
Well, you know, I again, to go back to Green Lantern in the less sort of funny, yet horrifying tragedies context, Green Lantern was actually the greatest, one of the greatest experiences of my life because, well, one, it was a joy to shoot. It really was. But I also noticed while I was shooting that I really kind of had shot a lot of movies at this point, a lot of different kinds of movies, and I sort of thought, maybe I kind of know what I'm doing a little. You know, I'm not trying to like flex on anybody, but I was still in this yes, no, yes sir, no sir, how high can I jump, sir, kind of way of being. And I would watch creative decisions being made, and I would think like, okay, that's a good creative decision. That is a nail that will go in a coffin that I alone will lay in the future. And at this point, I'm savvy enough to realize that nobody's going to say it's whether it's Green Lantern, whether it's R.I.P.D., whether it's any of these movies that are bigger that didn't work, they're going to call it the Ryan Reynolds movie that didn't work, and that's the name of the game. I'm not complaining about that. This business I signed up for, and I understand it. So I was like, well, if that's the case, I want to be able to have some authorship in that. So Deadpool came along after that. I had shot test footage for it a couple of years before, and the studio, just really didn't want to do anything with it. It was an R-rated comic book movie, which is just, you just don't do those anymore. Blade was one. They did in '98 with Stephen Norrington. It was great. It was an amazing movie. But they never really did them again. And at least not at scale. And Deadpool's a fringe character. People didn't really know who he was. And I loved it. I was obsessed with it because I loved that he knew he was in a comic book movie. It was kind of meta, it was kind of new. But the test footage existed, and it really was a case study in how this could work. And they just wouldn't do anything with it. So then some asshole leaks it online. And I'm like, looking at the guy in the mirror brushing my teeth. And I'm like, dude, what have you done? This could be punishable by law. But the internet forced the studio to say, well, we're gonna make this movie. And I was, 24 hours later, that movie had a green light. And yes, I cheated a little. But I think I was onto something that people would be interested in. And I'm grateful that I kind of listened to that instinct. I'm grateful that I did the wrong thing in that moment. So really what I internalized on Green Lantern, why I say it was one of the best things I ever did, is that, too much time and too much money will destroy creativity. It will ruin it. Constraint and pressure will create asymmetric thought, and you will start to think outside the box. There are sequences that, I produced the movie, but I also wrote it with Reese and Paul Wernick, who are friends of mine, who are brilliant. We cracked the story in our first meeting. And it basically, I'm using the character. I'm not a comic book nerd the way some people might think I am. I'm really not. I use the character, and this is the perfect character to use. The first one I used for shame, to tell a story about shame. The second one about family, and the third one is about redemption. And John Candy's about redemption. Wesley Snipes appearing in Deadpool Wolverine is redemption. Hugh Jackman appearing in Wolverine in the yellow Admiral banana suit is about redemption. And these things are very, very important. And redemption to me sometimes can mean, like with John Candy, Wesley Snipes, something or somebody you miss desperately, but you didn't know you missed them. And when you give that, when you create a story around that, or you show that on screen, it has a feeling like nothing else. And all of that is kind of derived around constraint, thinking in different ways. Like when, Marvel said, what do you want to do in the third movie? And, now you have access because Disney bought Fox, and now we're all owned by Marvel, even you guys. So, we're all Marvel characters. They're gonna make you do that scene where you all have to run before the bad thing happens, like where the whole town scatters. So and you know why they do that, right? So they don't have to pay a bunch of background artists while they do the fight sequences for 6 weeks. Yeah. True story. It's an evil empire. Yeah. But when I did Deadpool 1, I was like, there's no money. It's a $56 million budget for a movie that should have been budgeted 150 or something. For these kinds of movies, they're just huge budgets. So instead of spectacle, we used character. We wrote a dozen alt jokes to any given moment, dozen alt lines for this. We first wrote a comedy, we ripped it up, and then you wrote an emotional story, and then added the comedy, and that's the same process that happened with the other movies too. And you start to just supplant all of that spectacle that people are normally used to with character, and they remember that. They don't remember a city floating up in the air and exploding as much as they remember a line that made them laugh their guts out. I think back to like movies like Fletch. I watched Fletch, and there's tons of big laughs in the movie, but there's the weird ones that I remember, like, I'll have a cup of hot fat and bring me the head of Alfredo Garcia. Like, where you're just like, oh my God. You know, planes, trains, and automobiles, you know, welcome to Marathon, how may I help you? It's like, you know, you can start by wiping that fucking smile off your rosy fucking cheeks. Yeah, fucking automobile. I did this last night. I watched the whole thing, by the way, and I won't do that to you. But you know, that's one of the most memorable moments. And there isn't a gun fired. There isn't shooting. There's nothing stabbing. There's no action. There's no nothing. And I didn't internalize that on Green Lantern, and then intellectualized it when I was doing Deadpool. It's like constraint is your friend. Like, use constraint. And I watch movies being made now as a producer, and I'm like, why is this budgeted at $250 or $300 million when you just don't need that much money? You just need to put something on the screen that people connect to, and it is not superpowers. It's never superpowers. You know, that, like, it isn't. I mean, Superman 1 with Christopher Reeve is one of the best superhero movies ever made because the dude could fly. That's one thing that people really liked, and that is not what made that movie. Clark Kent made that movie. So you get it. You go ahead. I hope it's someone important. No. That's happened to me, by the way. Do you have time for a 4-second tangent?
Maybe in a moment.
What if it involves Denzel Washington?
Unfortunately, we don't have Denzel Washington this afternoon.
That happened to me though with Denzel Washington.
Okay. But we are going to watch 2 clips.
You want to hear the Denzel Washington story? Anita, you're going off the rails. I'm sorry. Listen, if we're 4 minutes late, big deal. Okay. We both lost our glasses earlier. We found them.
So you're really trying to take me down the road.
I'm shooting this movie called Safe House, okay? And I'm working with Denzel Washington. I'm really, really scared because he's Denzel Washington and I'm me. Anyway, I'm terrified. But the great thing is the character's terrified, so it's no problem. I just have to play scared the whole time. It's great. But the last scene of the movie, he's dying on the floor, and he's like, you know, the guy's like method actor. He said like 2 words to me the whole movie, and he knocks on my trailer door and says, "Can you rehearse?" I'm like, yes. I mean, come in, and I ripped my Denzel Washington posters down. And I'm like, yes, sit down. D, may I call you D? Yes, would you like some fresh, non-potable tap water? Anyway, he rehearses the scene with me. It's a very powerful scene. He's gonna cry. The scene's terrible. Big time. With this guy, with an emotional scene, you get it twice. You get it once, and then you get it twice. Then the second time. If you fuck up, that's on you. That's not going to be on him. And he's leaving. So you better get it. So he does this emotional scene. It's crazy. There's all these stunt guys, these dead stunt guys around him in the scene, and he's been shot, wounded, dying. Oh, he admits all the stuff that he did wrong. Tears start rolling down his face. And suddenly you hear, and this is take 2, by the way. Because take 1 was a technical problem. You hear, "Come fly with me. Let's fly away." Dum Dum is sitting on his phone. I'm Dum Dum in this story. And I can feel everybody looking around like, what the fuck is happening right now? I can see Denzel with a tear in his eye. You know, like in Ghost, Demi Moore has that tear, and it's like, it's gonna come down, don't stop it. And it comes out, like, oh! breaks character. They don't even go, God, who the fuck's phone is that? And I stand up and I look at all those stuntmen around me and I go, who the fuck's phone is that? Inexcusable. And I look at the first aid and I go, and he was like, D, can we do another one? And I was like, we're gonna have to, aren't we? And I'm like, yes, stuntmen. Oh God. Anyway, sorry, Anita.